Hey, this is Mrs. Ash. I am putting together this video to help students, especially who are in exam and role play events, better understand what instructional areas and performance areas are and the impact that they have on your event preparations. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is DECA's cluster poster. It helps me kind of give you guys a little bit of a picture in your mind's eye as to how to organize these things. It's a lot of information, but it really is manageable if you can compartmentalize the information. So at the center of everything that we do in DECA's competitive program is what we refer to as the business administration core, and these are broken down into instructional areas. There are 12 core instructional areas that are listed in this dark blue dot. Every event within our competitive program encompasses the core instructional areas. It's just some only have the core area. Those are the principals events for first-time competitors only, or they can build on and just really focus into one of the what we refer to as clusters. And DECA is very good about color coding things. So if your event that you've chosen has a red dot next to it when you're doing your research on DECA.org, you know that you're in the marketing cluster. If it's yellow, it's business management and administration. If it's green, it's finance, etc. So as you build out away from the core, there's two things right in the center that I want to draw your attention to. One is this white ring that is referred to as the 21st century skills. These are the things that we can't teach you in the classroom. You've got to get out and just practice them and get real world experiences. They are your communication skills, your professionalism, your problem solving skills, your ability to work effectively with others in collaborative environments. So these are the things that I think are so valuable with your experience with DECA. And then there's this concept of entrepreneurship, and Klein ISD, we refer to it as the golden ring of innovation. It's this idea that for us to move forward, we constantly have to be bringing new solutions, new ways of thinking, innovative and creative ways of challenging ourselves and problem solving into the future. And whether you're owning and operating your own business or you're acting in an entrepreneurial mindset working for another corporation, these skills are just imperative to be developing. And again, they loop through all of the major clusters, and those are the major instructional areas. So if your event is in a marketing cluster, the marketing cluster exam will include questions from this core as well as instructional areas in the red. And some of them can actually overlap and have the same language. It just means that they are going into a more focus at the cluster level. And some of them, most of them are brand new. They are new concepts that are very specific to the function of marketing within the study of business. And now if you're in a individual series role play event, you're also getting much more specialized towards a specific career pathway. And each one of the events are assigned one of these pathways: marketing communications, marketing management, marketing research, merchandising, or professional selling. And each one of those actually has its own unique set of performance indicators that are different from the other because they are so specialized. We don't have specialization on performance indicators at the test at that level, but you will see it in the role plays for individual series. And so the yellow is for events that are associated with business management and administration. That's typically business law, human resources. Our finance events are under the green. Personal financial literacy is kind of its own specialization about personal money matters, if you will. The gray is the entrepreneurship, and it actually embodies all four clusters. And then the blue is that very specific cluster of hospitality and tourism. So I just wanted to kind of give you this picture to start with to help make what we're going to discuss next maybe come into focus a little bit faster for you. So what I have just done is clicked over to DECA.org, and just so that you know where I am, I'm going back to the main landing page of DECA.org, high school, and now I'm going to go to competitive events. Because it's the most complex, I'm going to show you the performance indicators for one of the individual series events. So if you haven't been here before, I'm just scrolling down, and as you scroll down, it takes you into the different event categories. It always starts with principals, and then it goes to team decision, and then it goes to individual series. For the sake of this, I'm going to look at automotive services marketing. Notice there's this link here that says performance indicators. It's going to be a large document, but we're going to figure out a way to get it organized and take it one bite at a time. So I'm clicking on the performance indicators, and these are all the different instructional areas, and then under each instructional area, the individual performance indicators that you could see either on a test or on a role play scenario or case study scenario. Now, if you remember, we clicked on automotive services, and there's several individual series events and team decision events that fall under the marketing cluster. So this is listing all the cluster events that fall under it. But since we are doing automotive services, I want you to make a mental note that we are focusing on the marketing management pathway. So if you look and scroll down, here's our table of contents. That core that everybody has to be aware of if you are in a testing or role play event, you need to know the core, and then it goes to the marketing career cluster. This is red, so this will include all of the events listed in red. That's the marketing career cluster. And then it goes to the marketing career pathways. So the only ones that we want to look at in the career pathway section are going to be the marketing management pathway, because we were looking at automotive services, which would start at page 41 and then end at page 45. So I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. It's interesting. You're going to see some keys here. PQ means prerequisite. These are the foundational performance indicators. You're going to see a heavy concentration of PQ and CS at the district level. CS is career sustaining. So these are kind of that cluster level. We need to have a foundation of the PQs to be able to build the CSs on top of. And then as you get into the pathways and the real specialized subject matter expertise, that's where the SP will start to come into. So Tier 1, Business Administration Core. Notice that core. Everybody, all of these events fall under this core. If you are in a principals events, these are the only ones you have to know, are the ones that are under this core segment. And then here are the instructional areas, and there's the instructional area name, business law, and then there's the acronym BL. That is the instructional area, and then the standards and the performance elements. Those performance elements are what you can see on your scenarios as your performance indicators. Explain the nature of import-export law, describe the nature of custom regulations. So those are, if you've got a business law focus on your scenario, these are the areas that you could be pulled from. And so it said on page 23, it's going to transition from the core to the cluster. So I'm going to go ahead and just scroll down and get there to show you the transition. All right, that was 21. 22 still says core on it. And now on page 23, we see a difference. It went from Tier 1 to Tier 2. And again, though, it is including all of these. But now instead of just looking at that core foundational concepts, we're really looking at these concepts that are specific to the function that marketing plays within business. And so now we're going to get into the instructional areas at the marketing cluster level, and then we're going to be able to see the performance indicators under each one of those. And some of these performance indicator marketing instructional areas could be duplicate to the core, but most of them are going to be new and different in addition to the core. And then if you remember, we said that we are going to scroll past Tier 2 and into Tier 3. So on page 29 was the end of the marketing cluster, and then it gets into the pathways, and this is where you have to be really mindful that you're looking at only your event. If you look at this, it says automotive services pathway, page 41 through 45. We're on page 30, so you don't want to be studying all of the other things that aren't going to be correlated to your particular scenario. At this point, there are no testing questions. It will only be performance indicators that can show up on your scenario. Typically, you don't see a lot of the Tier 3 at district. If you do, it would just be one. You start to see them introduced at state, and you see a heavier concentration of them at the ICDC level. So I'm going to go ahead and just scroll down to page 41. And there goes the end of the marketing communications pathway, and now we are in marketing management. So here again, you're seeing some of the same keywords we've seen at the core level, but now we're getting into some much more specialized concepts. Explain the impact of business customs and practices on global trade, and the nature of customs in the North American market versus Western Europe, Latin America. So we're getting much, much more specialized when we get into the tier 3 level, and you can see it's SP all the way down here. Information management, same thing. So when you get to, let's see, marketing management, page 45 is the end of it, and it goes to the marketing research, and that would be the end of your mission right there. So I know this is probably feeling a little overpowering, but overwhelming at least, and realize that everybody is in the same boat. Nobody's going to be an expert on all of these, but when you start to study them and you have a general concept for what we're talking about in the different instructional areas, it starts to become much more comfortable, and you get your self-confidence up, and you'd be surprised how well you can talk through these in a role play scenario. So a couple things that I want to show you. One is on the Texas DECA website. When you go to texasdeca.org, this is the landing page, then to resources and competition resources, there is resources for role play events, and it can break down if you just want specific indicators for your event. Be mindful of the date of these files. The indicators can change slightly from year to year. I'm not 100% sure if all of these are updated, but this is just a wonderful, wonderful repository of resources and information. Also, back at that deca.org website now, I am going to go back to the main page. Again, it's high school competitive events. Scrolling down, and you're going to see this blue box right before you get to the individual event categories. You can click on where it says sample videos of the role plays, and these can be very helpful. There's a sample scenario, and then you can actually, if you need to, see the guidelines are linked right there as well, and then watch a judge and a student from past ICDCs role play out this particular scenario. So you can read it, kind of think how you would handle it in your own head, and then see how these students are handling. These are not necessarily past ICDC winners, but there's some good examples of a variety of skill sets in these videos, and it will help you wrap your head around it. In Klein Oak DECA, let me get over into our Schoology here. There is also a couple resources that I want you to be familiar with. One is just that we have our own, oh here, I can pop it right here. We have our own bank of sample role plays and case studies. So I just went to materials, competition preparation materials. There's a significant number of sample role plays for the different types of events that are housed in here, so that you can start to look at how the different instructional areas, different performance indicators have been used in the past. And as you're targeting the different areas that you want to learn, we have a wonderful resource that we invested in last year. If you go back out to the main competition webpage, you're going to see this folder that is titled Instructional Area Content Preparations. And you're going to see folders with all of the acronyms, all of the different instructional areas, so that if there's one that you know is significant for your event and you're really struggling with it, marketing information management is one that marketing cluster students really need to be familiar with. There's all kinds of content that are really giving you the main concepts of so many of those indicators. You can click on one of these. There's reading that you can do. There's a pre-test. There's a post-test. I put the keys in here. You can take them over and over again, read through to help you prepare for these different areas. So I know it's a lot, but if you take it in bites and you realize that everybody's in the same boat, I hope you'll realize that you can do this. Ready or not, here we go.